ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, titled Sankhya Yoga, verse 36. Asamyata atmana yogaha asamyatatmana yogo asamyatatmana yogo dushprapaha iti me matihi dushprapa iti me matihi Vashya Atmana Tu Yatata Vashyatmana Tu Yatata Shakyaha Avaptum Upayataha Shakyo Vaptum Upayataha Asamyatatmana Yogo Dushprapa iti me matihi Vasyatmana tu yatata Shakyo avaptum upayataha Asamyatatmana yogo Dushprapa iti me matihi Vasyatmana tu yatata Shakyo avaptum upayataha Asamyatatmana yogo Dushprapa iti me matihi Vasyatmana tu yatata Shakyo vaptum upayataha Asamyatatmana yogo Dushprapa iti me matihi Vasyatmana tu yatata Shakyo vaptum upayataha Asamyatatmana yogo Dushprapa iti me matihi Vasyatmana tu yatata Shakyo vaptum upayataha Asamyatatmana yogo Dushprapa iti me matihi Vasyatmana tu yatata Shakyo vaptum upayataha Asamyatatmana yogo Dushprapa iti me matihi Vasyatmana tu yatata Shakyo vaptum upayataha Asamyatatmana yogo Dushprapa iti me matihi Vasyatmana tu yatata Shakyo vaptum upayataha Asamyatatmana yogo Dushprapa iti me matihi Vasyatmana tu yatata Shakyo vaptum upayataha. Online.
Ashamyatatmana yogo
Samyatatmana yogo
दुष्प्राप इति मे मतिः
dushprapa iti me matihi
वश्यात्मना तु यतता
vashyatmana tu yatata
शाक्यो वाप्तुम् उपायतः
shakyo vaptum upayataha
असम्यतात्मना योगो
asamyatatmana yogo
दुष्प्राप इति मे मतिः
dushprapa iti me matihi
वश्यात्मना तु यतता
vashyatmana tu yatata
साक्यो वक्तुम् उपायतः
shakyo vaptum upayataha
असंयतात्मना योगो
asamyatatmana yogo
दुष्प्राप इति मे मतिः
dushprapa iti me matihi
वश्यात्मना तु यतता
vashyatmana tu yatata
शक्यो वाप्तुम् उपायतः
shakyo vaptum upayataha
असंयत आत्मन योगो
asamyatatmana yogo
दुष्प्राप इति मे मतिः
dushprapa iti me matihi
वश्यात्मना तु यतता
vashyatmana tu yatata
शाक्यो वाप्तुम् उपायतः
shakyo vaptum upayataha
असम्यतात्मना योगो
asamyatatmana yogo
दुष्प्राप इति मे मतिः
dushprapa iti me matihi. Translation: For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by right means is assured of success. That is my opinion. Translation with repetition: For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by right means is assured of success. That is my opinion. Purport: The Supreme Personality of Godhead declares that one who does not accept the proper treatment to detach the mind from material engagement can hardly achieve success in self-realization. Trying to practice yoga while engaging the mind in material enjoyment is like trying to ignite a fire while pouring water on it. Similarly, yoga practice without mental control is a waste of time. Such a show of yoga practice may be materially lucrative, but it is useless as far as spiritual realization is concerned. Therefore, the mind must be controlled by engaging it constantly in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Unless one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, he cannot steadily control the mind. A Krishna conscious person easily achieves the result of yoga practice without separate endeavor. But a yoga practitioner cannot achieve success without becoming Krishna conscious. Thus ends the wonderful transcendental purport. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So today we are continuing the answer that Krishna is giving to Arjuna in response to his question, in response to his comment that the system of yoga that has been described by Krishna in chapter 6, titled Sankhya Yoga, this system of yoga appears to be impractical. It is not something that I can follow, is what Arjuna is saying. And then Krishna responded with one verse that we covered 2 weeks back. And today, the second verse that Krishna is speaking. So let us see what the verse is. Once again. Asamyatatmana yogo dushprapa iti me matihi vashyatmana tu yatata shakyo vaptum upayataha. There is a contrast that is drawn here by Krishna in 2 states of mind. There are 2 states of mind that are being talked about, and there's a contrast that is being drawn by Krishna in these 2 states of mind. So, if you recall, in the last verse, Krishna had agreed with Arjuna, who had said that mind is extremely difficult to control. And he had given an outline of 2 processes. We will revise that one more time. And now, Krishna is drawing a contrast. That if you follow that process, then you get one state. If you don't follow that process, you get a different state. What is the difference between these 2 states of mind? So the first line is talking about one such state. What is that state? Asamyata atmana. Asamyata. Asamyata is one whose mind is unbridled, out of control. There is no control to the mind. Bridled means brittle. That is, unbridled is like a horse without any control. A bridled horse versus unbridled horse, they say. So a horse which is not properly controlled is very difficult to control, of course, because it's out of control. So the very statement bridled means it's controlled. So asamyata atmana. So as we have seen before, the word atma can have 4 meanings. Does anyone remember what the 4 meanings of atma are? Online? No, online.
Mind.
What is that?
Mind, body, and soul, which is Atma.
Prabhu, it can be mind, it can be body, it can be soul.
Yes. And there is one more. Anyone else online? What are the 4 different meanings of Atma? In case you are just waking up. What are the 4 different meanings of Atma? Sorry? Sorry, I could not hear Mataji. Anybody here? No, I think they're not on mute. That's what it is. Prabhu, I think you are not attended. You have attended, I think.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhu. Meaning could be body, mind, and soul, Prabhu.
Those are the 3 meanings. There is a 4th meaning also, which was discussed previously. Okay. Yes? Consciousness. That is, the consciousness is a symptom of soul. Chetana. Yes, Prabhu. Paramatma, yes. Pandaram Prabhu has given the correct answer. Fourth meaning of Atma is Paramatma, is also called Atma or Super Soul. So these are the 4 meanings of Atma. When you see the word Atma appearing in Bhagavad Gita, immediately one bell should go. What does that bell should say? Oh, this can mean Atma, Paramatma, or body. It can mean body, mind, spirit, or Super Soul, Supreme Spirit. It can mean either of these. So then, because when we understand these different meanings, we can appreciate and remember these verses. These verses help us contextualize the meaning of Bhagavad Gita in actually our daily life. But because we forget these verses, we are not able to immediately correct. These are very powerful words, the words of Krishna. We sometimes say this is a very important verse. And yes, true, there are some verses which are guiding light, they are torch-bearing lights, which we can, if we remember, memorize, it helps a lot. But why is it that when we hear this verse and we chant it 3-4 times, and we hear it so many times, today we chanted this verse how many times, right? First I chanted 3 times, then 5 people here, and then about 5 people in the audience 10 times, plus 3, 13 times you have chanted this verse. And yet, right now, if somebody were to be asked, nobody can remember this. Nobody can remember it. Correct? Although we have chanted this verse 13 times. And So we pass several weeks and months reading Bhagavad Gita, and we chant so many verses so many times, but we are unable to remember and unable to recall. And this memory recall is not happening because we are chanting these verses mechanically without having keys to remembering these verses. And these, ordinarily, if somebody were to read Sanskrit language, we cannot actually interpret Bhagavad Gita. It is impossible. We'll get all wrong meaning. So Acharya has given us a very small, tiny exposure to Sanskrit language. To that extent, that is beneficial to us. Anything more, if somebody says, no, this Bhagavad Gita is full of Sanskrit, let me go start reading Sanskrit language, you will get completely bewildered and go in a very different direction. So our acharyas have restricted, and they have said, this is the meaning of this verse, and here is the meaning of each of the words. And then when you look at the context of these words in all of the literature, these are the 4 important meanings of the word Atma that come up. Doesn't mean that there may not be other meanings, but here are the 4 meanings that are relevant to us. When we remember these meanings of these important words, and then when we read the verse, immediately the light bulb goes on, it helps us remember the verse much better. Asamyata, samyama. You've heard this word samyama. Samyata, same thing, means samyama is to be balanced, and samyata, asamyata is completely out of balance, out of control. Atmana, here Atmana is controlled as is translated as the mind. Yoga, here yoga is translated as self-realization. In many places, yoga is translated in different ways. Union with the Supreme, Krishna consciousness. Like this, there are many different translations that are given to yoga based on the context. Here, we are seeing that it is translated as self-realization. And then dushprapa, difficult to obtain, prapa. Praptasya kalyana gunarnavasya. We all remember this, right? Singing in the morning. Praptasya kalyana gunarnavasya. Prapya is to get. Dushprapa, difficult to get. Right? Iti me matihi. That is clear. Iti me matihi, that is my opinion. Vashya. Vashya atmanatu yatata. Vashikaran. And we remember the 8 Ashtasiddhis. One of them has to do with Vashikaran. Vashikaran is to control, to be able to make others do whatever you want. It's one of the Ashtasiddhis. Somebody who is highly advanced in the system of yoga, Ashtanga yoga. One of their Ashtasiddhis is they can make others do what they want. And that is Vashi, means to control. Vashya Atmana. This is the second state of mind that Krishna is talking about. Vashya Atmana is one whose mind is controlled. To Yatata. And Yatata is also, the word Yatata is also used in many places. Sorry? Yatatam api siddhanam. Yes, that's what I was trying to recall. What is the first line of that word? Was Yatatam api siddhanam. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye. Yatatam api siddhanam. Kaschin mam veti tattvataha. So yatata is translated here as while endeavoring. So while amongst many humans who are endeavoring for perfection, hardly one may actually achieve success. First of all, out of many people, not many are endeavoring for perfection. So this yatata word is also being used many times in Bhagavad Gita. Shakyo avaptum upayataha. Shakyaha. This is not a very frequently, at least I have not come across this very often. Shakyaha. Practical. This is translated as practical. Avaptum, to achieve. Upayataha, by appropriate means. So what are the 2 states of mind that are being described here? Asamyata atmana and Vashya atmana. These are the 2 states of mind that are being talked about. And what is the commentary on these 2 states of mind? Asamyata atmana yogaha dushprapaha iti me mati. So it is very difficult to achieve self-realization for a person who is asamyata atmana, whose mind is uncontrolled. Self-realization is very difficult. In contrast, there is a different state of mind in which Shakyo avaptum upayatah. That is, if somebody has a controlled mind, can they achieve self-realization? Possible, but that's not the complete condition. That is not the complete. That is necessary but not sufficient. That is necessary but not a sufficient condition. What's the second condition that is required? Upayataha. Upayataha is the second condition. So if somebody who has a Vashyatmana state of mind and they undertake yatata, in what direction? What direction they should undertake yatata? Upayataha direction. What is it upayata? Appropriate means. So if somebody's mind is controlled, but they don't take the appropriate means, then the controlled state of mind is not going to last. It will go away very soon. But even for the duration that it lasts, it is of no use. Through that mechanism, you cannot get self-realization. So one must have controlled mind, and of course one must endeavor for self-realization. Correct? If you don't endeavor for something, even though you have all the possible means, you have got vegetables, you have got rice, you have got everything, just because those things are there, does food come out of it? No, you don't have to. The food will not come. You have to actually cook it. The cooking process is yatata. But if you cook in all opposite direction, if you don't use the right process of cooking, will you get proper food? You won't get proper food. So the right process of cooking is upayataha. Cooking is yatataha. The right process of food is upayataha. And the initial state based on which you can perform these endeavors, that initial state is some Vashya Atmana. So with this context, let us again try to read the translation. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by the right means is assured of success. That is my opinion. So of course, we know when Krishna says it's his opinion, actually that is just his way of speaking, because he doesn't want to take away the free will of the living entity. So when Krishna says his opinion, what does it mean? Is it like me and you saying it's my opinion? We can express all our opinions, but opinions have no value. But Krishna, when he gives his opinion, that should be taken as truth. It is the absolute truth. Krishna and Krishna's opinion, there is no difference. So Krishna's opinion means that is the process. Why that is the process? Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. What is dharma? What is the righteous occupation of a person? That is known only when it is spoken by the Lord. Otherwise, we have no way of understanding. What is dharma? What is the righteous occupation for a person? What is the correct way to endeavor? What is the right means to endeavor? What is the state in which I should make that effort to endeavor? None of this we know. And the only way we know is when the Lord speaks. So the Lord speaks, pranitam, bhagavan pranitam, that becomes dharma. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. So now, let us just take a look at the process that he has already given in the last verse. Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grahyate. So he is admitting that mind is very difficult to control, and he is not contradicting Arjuna in that. We saw that last week. Chanchalatvat asamshayam mahabaho manodurnigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. Sri Bhagavan vacha. So when Krishna begins to speak, you see how in Bhagavad Gita, page after page, it is mentioned Sri Bhagavan vacha. So we remember immediately, we should remember, oh, Krishna is speaking. Bhagavan, possessor of full opulences and six full opulences. Possessor of six opulences in full is speaking. Asamshayam, no doubt, without a doubt. Mahabaho, mano durnigraham chalam, very difficult to control. Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. So by practice, again, yatata. Today also is talking about yatata, that is by endeavor, and that is similar to what he said in the last verse, abhyasena. And the process of the right means has been talked about, upayataha, and in the last verse he says vairagyena. So that is a clue, and that clue Prabhupada is explaining the purport as well. So detachment is said to be a very important part of the means. And we also saw last week how the practice abhyasa, that nobody can observe the strict rules and regulations, very difficult. And but by practicing Krishna consciousness, we saw how one engages in 9 types of devotional service to the Lord. And we saw what those 9 types of devotional service: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. And then we saw these different states of mind, leading from how restless mind goes to turbulent mind and becomes obstinate, strong and obstinate, and then that leads to madness. So today in Krishna's, what Krishna is speaking about, asamyata atmana, that is also coming somewhere in between. A very obstinate, strong and obstinate mind, which is constantly restless and turbulent, on the way to reaching madness or pramattaha state, there is this uncontrolled state, which is resulting in the madness state. Or it can be said madness and asamyata, they are more or less the same state. Because an out of control mind, essentially you cannot predict what that mind will do. What actions that such a person will undertake, we have no way of predicting that. So madness and asamyata atmana, they are the same level. But if at all you want to make any differentiation, you can say maybe asamyata is one step before madness. Because uncontrolled mind, anytime he can do anything. And when that repeated contemplation of random such thoughts, and they just take that person in any direction, and when he keeps on doing that, that results in pramattaha state. There is one very interesting line that we had read in last class. When there are too many materialistic activities by people in general, all over the world, there is no wonder that a person or nation attacks one another person or nation on slight provocation. The last time we had focused on this state of mind or madness that leads to provocation and attacks, and how the treatment for that also we saw, and we'll just revise that in a second here. But in today's verse, in purport that we read, Prabhupada is talking about activities and engagement in activity. So just look at the same sentence from a slightly different lens today on the first part of this quote, where he says, when there are too many materialistic activities by the people in general. Materialistic activity. So when there are too many materialistic activity by people in general means, if you take at a micro level, this is a macro picture that Prabhupada is quoting, is painting there. When an entire population becomes engrossed in materialistic activities, then there is a certain result that comes. When we apply that to an individual, that is what Krishna is saying in today's verse. When applied to me, what does it mean? So, asamyata atmana, for a person who is completely out of control and unbridled, self-realization is not possible. And then in purport, Prabhupada says that what is that way to get that mind under control? What is that vairagya? What is that process of abhyasena to vairagya, vairagyena, abhyasena to kaunteya, vairagyena chagrahyate? That process he is again describing in today's verse with a slightly different light. So we'll see that. But just bear this in mind that the cause and effect that is being described in this quote from last time, we saw more about the effect. Today we'll see more about the cause, which is materialistic engagement. And Prabhupada describes in the previous verse, vairagya means detachment from matter and engagement of the mind and spirit. So the process or the problem that is stated is excessive engagement in materialistic activities. When they are engrossed in materialistic activities. And the opposite of that is vairagya, means detachment from materialistic activities. But detachment from materialistic activity in itself, in isolation, is not possible. It is not possible. It can only happen if there is attachment in something else, which is not materialistic. And that is engagement of the mind in spirit. Then we saw how in the 9 process of devotional service, starting from the Shravanam or hearing, is considered like an expert treatment. It is an expert treatment. So hearing is the expert treatment, and having Krishna Prasadam is the proper diet, appropriate diet. So for the treatment of a mad patient, of a diseased person, such a mad mind or a diseased mind, how do you treat it? So normally when you go to a doctor, there are 2 parts of the treatment. One is the medicine or the process of treatment. Other is a diet. So a regulated diet along with medicine can treat a person. So the regulated diet is nothing but having Krishna Prasadam. And the medicine is nothing but hearing. Hearing of Bhagavatam, hearing of Krishna Katha, hearing of the chanting of the holy names, hearing of the holy names. So this is called hearing. And that is the expert treatment. And today's purport, let us just look at it one more time, categorized in 3 points. The first one is the Supreme Personality of Godhead declares that one who does not accept the proper treatment to detach the mind from material engagement can hardly achieve success in self-realization. So we've talked already about Vairagya, correct? In the previous verse, Vairagya has been talked about. And what is Vairagya? Detaching the mind from material engagement. But also comes with attaching the mind to spirit. So the last part of purport last time, Prabhupada is again making the first point of this purport. So this is a continuation. The topic of the answer to Arjuna's question is continuing, and therefore the purport is also continuing. Trying to practice yoga while engaging the mind in material enjoyment is like trying to ignite a fire while pouring water on it. Imagine you're trying to start a fire. So this is a very common example in the olden days. But today, if somebody says start a fire, you cannot understand what do you mean start a fire. I just go to the gas and put one click and it starts. That's how you start a fire today. But then if you have somebody has a fireplace in their house, then maybe you have got some experience starting a fire. You put firewood, and then you try to start a fire. It's not easy to start. You have to have starter wood for that. Some thinner twigs which can easily catch fire. Sometimes even that won't catch fire because it is moist. There has got some twigs which you generally find outside in your backyard or something. Will have some moisture. It won't be fully dry because of the rain and other such things. It will be moist. So you try to light the fire, it won't light. So you probably need to take some paper or some other such thing which easily catches fire, like completely dry, free of moisture. You take something like that, then it will catch fire. Then you put that in the twigs. Twigs may catch fire. Then from the twigs, the actual logs will catch fire. And this process is so difficult, people have given up even that. People just go to Home Depot and buy one fuel cake. It's a pre-prepared cake. It is not even wood, but it slowly burns and gives the impression of being firewood. So people have forgotten how to light fire itself. If suddenly light were to go and somebody were told, why don't you go collect some firewood and light a fire? How many of us can do it? It is such an ancient art. Ancient science, very, very, like from 100,000 years, humanity has known how to light a fire. But now, in a population of, say, whatever, how many people are there in Shrewsbury? Maybe 20,000 people. How many people can actually light a fire? Hardly anyone. So, but still, just as a thought experiment, just follow this analogy. So you're not able to sometimes relate to the analogy because the analogy, you're not having any experience of this analogy. But to light a fire, one very important ingredient is that the fuel must be dry. If the fuel is wet, the fire won't get lit. Now imagine that not only the fuel is a little bit wet, but whatever little bit you're trying to light, on the side you have got one glass of water, and you're constantly pouring that water on the firewood. Will it light? What is the effect of that? There is no chance at all, right? At least with slightly moist wood, maybe if you light it for some time, after some time, maybe after half an hour, after a lot of fighting and blowing in that and doing something, there may be some chance of lighting a fire. But if somebody is standing on the side and having a sprinkler, like you would do put water sprinkler on the plant, right? You take the water sprinkler and constantly you put water on the fire. Is there any chance of lighting the fire? It's impossible. The firewood has to be completely dry. So this concept of engaging the mind in material enjoyment while at the same time trying to advance in self-realization, it is so futile. It is completely futile. This is an example that is often given of the boatman of the marriage party that came to there was a party that was going to attend a wedding, very important wedding. The groom was from a different village, and he had to travel to the party of the groom was going to the bride's house in a different village. And the entire party of the groom, along with his parents, his family members, everybody was coming in a party. And then by evening time, they came to the banks of a river, and they had to cross the river. So there was a boat, and it was night time. It was a very big river, and this river, think of it as Ganges River, which is very, very broad. Actually, Ganges River in many places, if you stand on one side, you cannot see the other side. It is so wide that you cannot see the other side at all. It is such a big river. Normally, we don't have such experience. Like most people have not seen a river actually. I mean, many people, I would say, have not even seen a river. That is our state. But even for those who have seen rivers, let's say in Boston, we are seeing some river here, Charles River. You stand on this side, you can see the other side. It's a very narrow river, not a big river at all. Those who are in the US, if you see the Mississippi River, it is quite big. It's quite a wide river. Mississippi River, if you start going on the Mississippi River on one side, you cannot see the other side on the bridge. It's quite broad. Similarly, Ganges is like that. So this is an example of a marriage party where they came to the river bank and they took a boat, and then they were very tired and they just slept off. They climbed up on the boat and they slept off. They know it will take 2-3 hours to reach the other side. Slowly the boatman will go, and there's a current also going in one direction. It will take time. So they went off. They went off to sleep. Then they kept on. They woke up in the morning and they're seeing, this looks very familiar. Doesn't look like the other side of the bank. And then they saw they are in the same place. They say the boat is in the same place as before. They were shocked. What happened? All night we have gone. Like 10 o'clock there is a wedding. We have to go. Muhurtam is there. All the priests are waiting. The band is waiting. Muhurtam is going. What happened? Why are we not gone? They started abusing the boatman. What have you been doing all night? And he says, sir, please forgive me. I have been rowing all night. I have been rowing. I did not go to sleep. Then they say, but really? How come we are in the same place? And the boatman says, I just realized that I never removed the anchor before starting to row. So boat is tied to the bank through an anchor. The anchor, of course, in the big boats, you have an anchor that drops down. In small boats, you have a rope that ties it to the bank. Usually there will be a pole and the boat is tied to the bank with 1 or 2 such poles. And he forgot to remove that anchor. So because he forgot to remove the anchor, he kept rowing all night, but he could not reach the other side at all. He could not even move from his place. So this is the state of a person who is trying to advance in self-realization, but at the same time, also continuing to engage in materialistic activities. Similarly, Prabhupada says, yoga practice without mental control is a waste of time. So another example that Prabhupada often gives is how when you have a iron rod, you're trying to heat the iron rod. When you take the iron rod and you insert it in fire, after some time, it is seen that the iron also becomes red hot. A red hot iron rod assumes fire-like quality. You put the iron rod in fire and it becomes red hot. You would have seen in documentaries and all how steel is made. They take a red hot and then they forge it in different ways. So before forging the steel, you have to heat it. They'll take with one very big, very strong pair of tongs. They'll wear very heavy gloves and they'll put the tong inside the fire until it becomes red hot. Now imagine that it takes, let's say, 15 minutes for that iron to become red hot. But in the first 1 minute itself, you take out that iron from the fire. For 1 minute, let it cool down. Then again, you put 1 minute in the fire. Then 1 minute, you let it cool down. Then again, you put it 1 minute in the fire. Like this, you do 15 times. You add up all the 1 minutes, it becomes 15 minutes. Correct? 1 minute you put in the fire, you take out. So you add up all the 1 minutes, what happens? The 1 minute becomes 15 minutes. But in this kind of a process, will the iron ever become fire-like? Will it become red hot? It won't become red hot. Correct? Because it is cooling. It doesn't get the chance. So similarly, when we are engaging our mind in materialistic activities while also trying to advance in self-realization, it will not go anywhere. Often people ask, is it not possible for me to take Krishna consciousness, take to this process and chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra 1 round, 2 rounds every day, 4 rounds every day, and at the same time also have materialistic association with my friends and undertake materialistic activities, go for restaurants and various other entertainment activities? Is it not okay to do that? Because after all, in a day there are 24 hours. I'm spending 15 minutes every day towards self-realization. I want to advance. And I'm spending 15 minutes every day. Is it not okay? The answer is here. Trying to practice yoga while engaging the mind in material enjoyment is like trying to ignite a fire while pouring water over it. Similarly, Prabhupada is continuing, yoga practice without mental control is a waste of time. Such a show of yoga practice may be materially lucrative, but is useless as far as spiritual realization is concerned. So we have seen many yoga gurus who will say, oh, you must be exhausted from all material desires. And the way to become exhausted from all material desires is to completely indulge your senses. Indulge your senses. Don't have any constraint. Do whatever you want. You will reach a state when you no longer want to enjoy, because you've completely satiated all your material desires. So go ahead, enjoy. This is one system of yoga practice. There are many such yoga gurus who have actually preached this, even in modern times. In the last 50 years, I myself remember there was one person whose primary method of yoga practice was to have his disciples freely mix men and women without any constraints. And the theory was that if you want to realize that you're not this body, why are you wearing clothes? Get rid of your clothes. If you're not the body, that means what is the shame? Take off your clothes. If you want to realize that if you want to not differentiate between man and woman, then don't have any constraints. Do whatever you want. One day you will reach the state where you no longer realize that you're not the body. This was of course, that never happened to those father disciples. But such people are there who teach such things. And surely they get a lot of followers, because after all, people want to do enjoyment anyway. And now they're getting some license also from some guru, so-called guru. So that's why Prabhupada is saying such a show of yoga practice may be materially lucrative, but it is useless as far as spiritual realization is concerned. Actually, the chapter 6 is starting with Yama Niyama, Shuchau Deshe Pratishtapya. You have to go to a secluded place. You have to completely be detached from all sources of material sensory stimulus. That's why he is asking you to go to a secluded place in the beginning of 6th chapter. Why he is asking us to go? Why Krishna is saying that the process of yoga is starting from going to a secluded place? Because the starting Yama Niyama means controlling our senses. But Arjuna says that is not possible for me. Just by controlling senses artificially, it's not that it's wrong. It's a valid process. There is such a valid process, but I cannot do it. That's what Arjuna is saying. Imagine 5,000 years back, when all the facilities for a civilized, controlled mind were available for undertaking this kind of an activity. Today, when none of that facilities are available, how is it possible for us to do this? It's not possible. Therefore, Prabhupada is saying, therefore, the mind must be controlled by engaging it constantly in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Unless one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, one cannot steadily control the mind. A Krishna conscious person easily achieves the result of yoga practice without separate endeavor. But a yoga practitioner cannot achieve the success without becoming Krishna conscious. See, this is when we read the purports of Prabhupada, you can see that why this is a science. Because when you study, even in modern science, you have a theorem and then there's a converse. So the necessary and sufficient condition, we saw that before. How asamyata atma, that is vashya atmana, is a necessary condition, but by itself is not a sufficient condition, right? For sufficient condition, you must have yatata and upayataha, endeavor and right means, correct? Both are required. So there is a necessary and a sufficient condition. We have studied in science and mathematics how you have got necessary and sufficient condition. Here, the rule of converse is being explained. A Krishna conscious person easily achieves the result of yoga practice. But if you think that therefore Krishna consciousness and Ashtanga yoga are on the same level, that is not true. Because the person who is a yoga practitioner, which means Ashtanga yoga, follower of Ashtanga yoga or Sankhya yoga that has been described in the 6th chapter, such a person cannot achieve success without becoming Krishna conscious. It's not possible at all. So thus we see that without a doubt that Krishna consciousness is a higher process. It is a more not only an easier process, I should say, achievable process, but it's a more complete process. In itself, it is complete. You don't need anything else. It is a more fundamental process. Whereas a Ashtanga yoga process is only a stepping stone. It is a preliminary purificatory process, which can only take you so far. And that only results in Vashya Atmana. So if somebody follows a yoga process somehow or the other, very carefully, and they're able to do it also, the end state of that is Vashya Atmana. So with the Vashya Atmana, it is not sufficient anyway. One has to still take the rightful means, Upayataha, and one has to make endeavor, Yatata, which means Krishna consciousness. So without taking up Krishna consciousness, Ashtanga Yogi cannot be successful in any case. There is an example in Bhagavatam of this concept of engagement, proper treatment to detach the mind from material engagement and engaging the mind in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada often quotes that the duty of a spiritual master is to engage the student, engage the disciple in Krishna conscious activities. And here also, if you see the language very carefully, Prabhupada is saying, unless one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, he cannot steadily control the mind. In this sentence, if you just see, it can be understood in two ways. When I'm reading it, I must understand it as saying, oh, I must engage my mind in Krishna consciousness for me to be able to steadily control my mind. That is one understanding. The second understanding is in third person. Unless one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, he cannot steadily control the mind. It's a third person language. It's not a first person language. The third person language indicates that actually you need external help to engage ourselves in Krishna consciousness. Unless one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, he cannot steadily control the mind. If you just study the sentence carefully, it can have two meanings. What are the two meanings? First is, when I apply it to myself, I must endeavor to engage myself in Krishna consciousness. But because it has been stated like that, it is also a third person meaning. It means I need help. And that help is from a bona fide spiritual master who helps us engage ourselves in Krishna consciousness. So the import of that, or the implication of this is, actually we should surrender to a spiritual master and take instructions from the spiritual master on how we should engage the mind constantly. Otherwise, we would ourselves not know how to do it. And even if we try, our mind being already in an uncontrolled state, where is our starting point? Starting point is asamyata atmana. Asamyata atmana is our starting point state. So asamyata atmana, how can it transform itself without any external help into a samya vashya atmana? It is not possible. That is why it is being said in third person. Unless one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, he cannot steadily control the mind. And Prabhupada says in many places that it's a very important duty of a spiritual master, of a leader, of any, let us say that there is a person who is slightly advanced in Krishna consciousness, that person's duty to help others also achieve the state of engaging in Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada's mission is all those who have received the benefit of molding their life to be revolving around engaging oneself in Krishna consciousness, such persons should extend that benefit to others and help them mold their life in engaging their mind in Krishna consciousness. To whatever degree we have been able to achieve engaging of our mind in Krishna conscious activities, engagement in Krishna conscious activities, to whatever degree we have achieved, to that degree, it is our duty, it's our responsibility to help others also similarly mold their life. How do we do that? We have to first of all build a relationship with a person who's trying to endeavor, who's beginning their journey. If somebody is beginning their journey, the first part is we have to understand what is that condition of his life. What are the inclinations that person has, natural inclinations. And by understanding his current state, understanding the constraints that the person is operating under, understanding the inclinations of that person, then we have to arouse their own plan, endeavor, to spark the thought process as a catalyst. Not by always giving solution, because yatata is very important. Yatata means endeavor. So we have to inspire that person to endeavor. If we give the solution, it may not be taken, because the person's mind is asamyata atmana. Asamyata atmana, mind, it cannot easily accept externally imposed solutions. Because there's a mind and there's an intelligence. The intelligence wants to solve problems. The intelligence must be given an opportunity to solve the problem of how to go from asamyata to vashiyatma. If that intelligence does not get that satisfaction of solving the problem, then that advancement will be checked. So how our help is given, how we have to give our help, it is by showing the inspiring words of the spiritual master, by using the inspiring words of the spiritual master and showing that person how he himself can transform, not by us telling him how to transform, because the actual transformation is context sensitive. The person has to mold his own life. We cannot mold his life. Every one of us has to mold our own life. So in our own life, we are making an endeavor, right? We have been given a formula. Follow the sadhana. Wake up in the morning. Chant 16 rounds. Attend Mangalarti. Read Bhagavatam. Hear Bhagavatam class. Read Prabhupada book. This formula has been given. Now somebody who is in asamyata atmana state, he's not able to do all these things because already mind is already engaged in so many other materialistic activities. So what that person will say, I have no time. I have no time for any of this. I have to finish my education. I have to do my office work. If I don't do this, my boss will fire me. Correct? So many explanations will come. So many of these. And these are all the answers his mind is giving. So how do we make his own mind give upayataha, the right means? How is it possible? So, but whatever the answer may be, because it's context sensitive, the answer cannot be given directly. Of course, we know bringing the devotee in touch with Krishna consciousness means bringing them to the temple, giving them opportunity to hear Krishna Katha, giving opportunity to hear chanting of Hare Krishna. These are the purificatory processes. And exposure to these activities, Krishna automatically lights the lamp of knowledge. To whatever, ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham, mama vartama anuvartante manushya partha sarvashah. So when a person takes one step, Krishna is reciprocating within his heart. That we need to have faith. Sometimes we get frustrated. Oh, so many times I have tried to talk to this person, he's not at all listening. But we have to have faith in the working of spiritual master and Krishna from within their own heart. And we have to have humility of our own limitation in actually changing somebody else's life. That person has to change his own life. When we apply it to ourselves, however, it is slightly different. Because now we have to see our faults. We have to see where it is that we are unable to take the instructions of our superior authority, who is giving us hints on how we can change our life one step at a time. For example, in India Heritage Foundation, we have a program of systematic progress in Krishna consciousness to the Srila Prabhupada Ashraya program. We have shared this before. I'll say this for all those who are new, who are not aware of this program. Just as when a person takes up to Krishna consciousness initially, it is very difficult for them to come to the state of chanting 16 rounds every day, of attending Mangalarti every day, reading Prabhupada book, Bhagavatam every day. Very difficult. It seems impossible. So there is a step-by-step process given. The first step is called Shraddhavan. In this process, in this first milestone, you take up an oath. I will chant 4 rounds. That's all. There are some reading of small books also recommended. There is a list of books given. Small books, Raja Vidya, Beyond Birth and Death, Perfect Question, Perfect Answers. Like that, there are some small books of Prabhupada. Read those books, chant 4 rounds every day. Contemplate on what you're hearing in class. This is the first level. Shraddha, very simple. First, try to achieve this milestone. Then increase that to 8 rounds. There's a next level after that. And then increase that to 12 rounds. There's a level for that. Increase it to 16 rounds. There's a level for that. Just as you go to Taekwondo class, there's a yellow belt, green belt. Like that, there are different stages that have been given. You can take that oath for each level and make a small progress, measured progress, and then change gradually as you have the aim, you set the goal, and then you have systematic milestones in place. You will be able to make a systematic, measurable progress. So anyone who has not taken up the Shraddhavan level, but they are chanting 1 round, 2 rounds every day, I would encourage, please reach out to the devotees in the temple and ask about Prabhupada Ashraya program. Please ask, how can I participate in Prabhupada Ashraya program? I want to make systematic progress. endeavor. I want to endeavor in the right means. But whatever you're telling me, 16 rounds and do all these things, they look very difficult for me. Is there a way I can progress systematically? So please ask this question and you'll get the right answer. There is one very interesting story, a historical narration. When I say story, it is a historical incident given in Bhagavatam of a great sage who was able to apply this principle of inspiring a person and engaging them in Krishna consciousness to take them from one level to another level. Of course, there are innumerable instances where a person has become pure devotee by the mercy of spiritual master. Lava matra sadhu sangha, sarva siddhi hoy. But today I am not going to take example of someone who became a pure devotee as a result of their being engaged. So I will not take that example, because that we have seen many examples. Today I will take example of a person who was extremely engrossed materialistically, and they were able to go one level up from where they were. And the reason why the story is very interesting and very, I would say, hope-giving is because our mind is not very different from the state of mind of this person when they started. And our mind is full of desires. And how that state of mind with those desires was dovetailed into Krishna consciousness. Let me just relate a small story. So this is a story of a great sage by the name Kashyapa Muni. Have you heard of Kashyapa Muni? Kashyapa Muni had multiple wives. One of them was Diti. Her name was Diti. And Diti had two sons. One of them was named Hiranyaksha, and the other was named Hiranyakashipu. These were two sons of Diti. And as we know the story of Hiranyakashipu, he was envious of Lord Vishnu, and he tortured and tried to torment his young son Prahalad Maharaj in many different ways. But the Supreme Lord appeared as Lord Nrsingadeva and pierced his body with his bare nails, and thus he killed Hiranyakashipu. Prior to that, the Lord had appeared as Varahadeva, the boar incarnation, and he had killed Hiranyaksha after a great battle. So both Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha had been killed by the Supreme Lord. Now, Diti, being a very attached mother, she was very attached to her children. She saw, why did Lord Vishnu kill my sons? And her conclusion was that this happened because Indra became very much perturbed by the activities of my children. And Indra has gone and complained to the Supreme Lord Vishnu, and therefore Vishnu has come and killed my sons. So her anger she became very angry at Indra. But what is just this person? Look at this person. He's enjoying this heavenly opulence, always engrossed in materialistic affairs. And just to protect his throne, he has become afraid of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. After all, Indra was going to die anyway. How long he will be alive and how long he will occupy the throne. But just because he wanted to protect his throne, he has conspired with Lord Vishnu, or he's gone and complained to Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu therefore has killed my sons. Indra is a very, very envious person. I should destroy Indra. He is the root cause of my suffering. So Diti made up her mind like that. And she started, the more she contemplated on this, the more she started criticizing Indra. We saw in that slide how when a mind is disturbed, when the mind is restless, what happens? You start contemplating the root cause of disturbance, becomes criticism. And she started criticizing upon Indra. And the more she started criticizing, she became very much aggrieved. And she made up her mind that Indra is the cause of my problem. She had no doubt, complete conviction. And she became very strong-minded, determined. I must kill Indra somehow, one way or other. I have to exact revenge for the death of my children. So she wanted to kill Indra. Diti, the wife of the sage, great sage Kashyapa, wanted to kill Indra. And she started to plot. So how did she plot? What she started doing was, she started serving Kashyapa Muni very nicely. to please him. So she would dress very beautifully and she would serve him whatever needs. She would anticipate her need, the husband's need. Whatever he required, before he required it, it will be available. Very, very, very austere. She took a lot of austerities because she knows sage means he likes austerity. So she would take a lot of austerity, work very hard, very pleasing way, beautifully dressed, and look at him very sweetly, speak very pleasantly, very smilingly. And over time, Kashyapa Muni was very much pleased by her behavior. And after some time, he asked, "My dear wife, you have served me so nicely. So please ask me any benediction you may want. Whatever benediction you want, I will give." And then, so Diti was waiting for this moment. As soon as he asked her, he said, "Thank you very much. I want to kill Indra. Please give me a plan how I can kill Indra." This was a thunderbolt for Kashyapa Muni. He suddenly realized what a trap he had fallen into, that he was a controlled sage, but by the sweet words of his wife, he became attracted to her. And now he has made a promise of benediction, and he cannot now go back on his promise. And he did not blame his wife at all. Now see the difference between a Vashya Atma, Ashmana, and a Asamyata Atmana. When Diti experienced suffering, she immediately blamed Indra. When Kashyapa Muni, he experienced this calamity, that he is now going to become the instrument of killing Indra. Did he blame Diti? He did not. He said, "This is my fault. I have allowed myself to fall down like this because of my engrossment in material activities, because of my attraction to this beautiful woman. I have now put myself in a condition where I will become the indirect cause of Indra's death." And then he contemplated on this, and then he devised a means. And he created a program by which to engage his wife Diti, even when she was trying to kill Indra, in Krishna consciousness. How it is possible to execute your duties in Krishna consciousness even when trying to kill Indra? That is his example. So he said, "All right, I will give you a plan. I will give you this process, this vrata, this vow that you must take. For 1 year, you must execute this vow. If you successfully execute this vow, you will be able to have a child, and the child will be able to kill Indra. But if you don't follow my instruction exactly, even if you make the slightest mistake, then instead of becoming the killer of Indra, your son will become the friend of Indra." So Diti said, "All right, I accept. Thank you very much for this. I will, please tell me what the details are. I will exactly follow what you say." So Kashyapa Muni said, he gave a series of instructions, a series of austerities. You have to wake up early morning. You have to do X, you have to do Y. Don't do these things. Don't go to sleep without taking a bath or washing your feet. For 1 year, don't cut your hair. For 1 year, don't cut your nails. For 1 year, do this, do that. Like that, he gave a series of engagements. And he said, every day morning, before you have food, you must worship a cow, a brahmana, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You must worship this before going to before eating. So before you have your breakfast, before you have your food, every day, you must wake up, cleanse yourself, and worship a cow, worship a brahmana, worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Do this, and then he gave some more processes. And he said, if you do this, you should not sleep at sunset. You should not sleep at sunrise. During sunrise or sunset, you cannot sleep. You cannot sleep in the company of other women. You cannot sleep naked. Like this, there are several steps that he gave. You should not go to bed without having washed your feet or cleansed yourself. And she said, all right, I will follow this. And she started following. Great determination, with great purpose, sense of purpose. Every day she would wake up early in the morning. She would worship the cow. She would worship Brahmana. And she will worship, of course, Brahmana, her own husband, Kashyapa Muni, was there for her to worship. And immediately she became pregnant. And she became very happy with that. And Kashyapa Muni had given instruction that child in the body, that is actually my own expansion. Husband's expansion is the child in the body. So you should worship the embryo in the womb as understanding that that is actually husband who's coming in the womb. So like this, he gave her some instructions which are suitable for her at the time. The intent here is not that we should start following those instructions, but you should understand the story and what the intent behind the story is. So she started following that. Our goal should be to follow the instructions that are given to us. But I'm telling the story because there's a purpose here. So just bear with me and follow the story. So she started following the instructions very, very carefully. Hearing this, Indra, by his mystic power, he came to know that, oh, this is happening. And he became very much disturbed. Oh, what will happen to me? This lady has taken up this oath. Kashyapa Muni's words will never go false. One child is going to be born and that child is going to kill me. What should I do? So he also devised a plan, how to counteract this. So he came down to their ashram and he said, okay, I know that this vow that has been given has got two sides to it. If she can successfully complete it, the child will kill me. But if she fails in some way, then I am saved. Her son will become my friend. So let me make sure, let me become an observer. Now it is my job to find faults in her. He appointed himself as a fault finder. So he started living in their ashram. How a fault finder works? You have to see this from the story of Indra. How does a fault finder work? Indra became a self-appointed fault finder. But did he tell Diti that I have come here to find faults in you? He didn't say that. Just as Diti, she had ulterior motive of killing Indra. And how did she execute that? By serving Kashyapa Muni very nicely. But her ulterior motive was there. Now Indra has ulterior motive of finding fault in Diti. But how did he execute that? By starting to serve Diti. So he said, okay, for me to understand her day in life, I had to first of all be with her. I have to help her. Then only she'll let into her life. So Indra was like a son to Diti. So Diti, when he started coming and serving Diti, she became pleased with Indra. Said, okay. And he would come, get her some flowers, get her some sandalwood paste. And he started helping her in every single possible way. So whatever Diti needed for her oath, to preserve her oath, Indra would help. But in the back of the mind, what Indra is thinking? Let me catch her making a mistake. I am just here to find a mistake. That's it. That mistake right there. So that's what he's waiting for. Although he would serve very nicely, but inside motive was fault finding. So this is also something very instructive. When we see ourselves serving somebody, we should see, but wait a minute, do I have a fault finding tendency? Am I doing this really with the intention to serve? Or am I, in my back of my mind, there's a portion of me that is waiting to find a fault? So Indra started serving this. And when Indra was serving, he found it very difficult to find faults. Actually, Diti was doing extremely good job of following her husband's instructions. So she was very determined. And no matter what he did, he could not find a fault. And kept on trying. Almost 1 year is about to happen. Just a few days are remaining. Indra is getting anxious. He's serving even harder. He is there. Just before Diti wants something, he is there to serve her. No matter what he does, he's not able to find a fault. Finally, one day, Diti makes a slip. She is so tired from executing all these principles. She had become a little weak. She had become drained of energy. One day, before washing her feet, she went to bed at sunset, not waiting for sun to fully set. At the time of sunset, without washing her feet, without cleansing herself, she went to sleep. She was just so tired. She could not keep herself awake. She just went to sleep. Immediately he caught. And through his mystic power, he went inside his womb. He entered his womb and he saw the embryo there. And he said, this is going to kill me. This embryo, this child in the womb is going to kill me. And immediately he slashed that with his thunderbolt embryo. He attacked the embryo. Then something magical happened. At this point, something magical happened, which Indra had no prior knowledge of this. He had never expected something like this would happen. The embryo split. He actually slashed the embryo in 7 parts. Not just once. Ek maar do tukda. Not like that. 7 times. He severed the embryo. Just imagine the cruelty of this person. A person who has served the wife of such a great sage for 1 year has gone inside and severed ruthlessly this newborn, a child is yet to be born, 7 times. The child did not die. Instead, it became 7 children. The child, the embryo, became 7 children. And he was stunned to see this. But he is Indra, not easily defeated. So he took his thunderbolt and he severed each of those 7 children 7 times again. So now you had 49 children. They did not die. They were still alive. And they asked him prayerfully, "Oh Indra," this is now embryo talking. This is a mystic power. "Oh Indra, we are your friends. Why are you killing us like this?" And Indra was, "Oh, you are my friends. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Oh, I'm very, very sorry." And he immediately exited from there. So he realized at that point, he suddenly woke up that actually, by the purificatory process that Diti had undertaken, by the devotional service that Diti had undertaken of worshipping the cow, the Brahmanas, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she had become so purified that the embryo that was being born in the child were devotees. They were devatas. They were not inimical. They were not asuras. They were not inimical to devatas. They were actually friendly to devatas. And so this mystic power happened because of Diti's transformation, Diti's devotional service. And at this time, Diti was asleep, right? So when she woke up, she immediately saw that now the children had born, they had come outside. The children, I don't know how the embryos became big, but that's what Bhagavatam says. And the children were outside, Diti could see them. And she was surprised. What happened? 49 children. I thought I'll get 1 child. There are 49 children. What happened here? So immediately Indra fell down at her feet and begged for forgiveness and said that, Mother Diti, actually I came here with the intent to find fault in you. I wanted to kill your child. But then I went into your womb and I realized that by the power of your devotional service, actually the children cannot be killed. Those children are protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Your children cannot be killed at all. And this is what has happened, and you may now give me any punishment that you want. So Mother Diti becomes very pleased with Indra's humility and behavior, and she excuses him. At that point, Indra admits these 49 children. They are called Maruts, and they are given the position of Devatas by Indra. So this is a narration of how the Maruts, 49 Maruts, become Devatas, even though they are born to Diti. Generally, under Diti was cursed that she will only get the demoniac asuras in her womb. But in this case, although the Maruts were born out of Diti, they became Devatas. So this is a very interesting story that has several teachings for us from Bhagavatam, where we can see that how Kashyapa Muni expertly engaged Diti, who had the intention to kill Indra, but she expertly engaged him in devotional service without even her knowing it. And the result of that was that not only that she had child, but she had 49 children. And those children were protected by the Supreme Personality of God. A lot of times we endeavor thinking that our endeavor, our effort is going to save us. But actually it is devotional service. We are under the protection of the Lord. And we forget that. We forget that it is actually by the Lord's mercy that our existence is going on. Every activity is happening because Paramatma is permitting it. All the means of our sustenance are provided by the Supreme Lord. And forgetting this, we are endeavoring thinking that I am the worker. So this is the example, and the instruction here is from Prabhupada is that on our own level, we have to endeavor through the right means, which means to approach a spiritual master, take instructions from him on how to mold our life, to stay engaged in Krishna consciousness. And to the extent that we are able to make advancement, we have to also help others in inspiring them to similarly take up that process. And one such way in doing this is a program that we have called the Srila Prabhupada Ashraya program, which I would encourage all of you to take advantage of. With this, I'll stop here and see if you have any questions, comments on what you heard. Anybody here would like to offer their thoughts, Prabhu, Srinivas Prabhu? Comments, what you understood? The one-line summary.
One should engage in mind with the we should detach from the material engage our mind with the Krishna consciousness and the right means.
What does it right means?
Right means is the
Prabhu? What does the right means? He's saying that one should engage, detach from material engagements and engage in Krishna consciousness through the right means. So what does the right means?
right means to approach to a
And
follow particular process.
follow the instructions. Follow the instructions. And what is anybody online would like to, Shweta Mataji or anybody else would like to expand on that? On that? So summary so far has been that one must engage, detach oneself from material activities, engage in Krishna consciousness through the right means, and the right means is approaching a spiritual master and following his instructions. Would you like to expand on that further?
That 4 regulative principles we can follow led by Srila Prabhupada. And as you concluded the program by telling about the initiation program, Krishna Ashraya program.
Yes, Prabhupada Ashraya program, yes. So Prabhupada Ashraya program is a step-by-step program to make a gradual advancement towards the path of being able to follow the instructions of Prabhupada. You had a question? Yes.
We have not to engage in material engagement. But at least for us, like we are going to work and we have to have that kind of association. So how to understand that, how we can avoid that and still do our duty.
Yes.
And again, progress in our
Yes. The question is, but we have to maintain a livelihood. So to maintain livelihood, we have to undertake materialistic activity of doing work to earn a livelihood. So how do we then say that we should not be engaged in materialistic activities? That seems a contradiction. Does that mean I don't have to maintain a livelihood? That is the question. So the answer to this question, if I give you now, I can say this, but the best way to get the answer is to take up to the process of Prabhupada Ashraya program. Because there is a knowledge and then there is realized knowledge. I can give you answer to the question, but the answer will appear to be theoretical. But I'll give you the theoretical answer. The theoretical answer is that actually what makes an activity material or spiritual? It is the intent with which the activity is done. The conscious, that's why it's called Krishna consciousness. The consciousness with which an activity is done is what decides. And what activity is approved? If an activity is approved by the higher authority, then that activity is not prohibited. It is approved. So there is no prohibition for maintaining one's livelihood in Krishna consciousness movement. It is approved. One can maintain livelihood. But how do you change that activity from being a materialistic activity to a Krishna conscious activity? That is where there is magic. And that process, it is a process. Krishna consciousness is a process of getting out of the entanglement of material world. And that process has to be done under the expert guidance of spiritual master. And that's why there's a step-by-step Ashraya program. If you take the Ashraya program, then it is given in bite-sized chunks, that knowledge. And then you practice that knowledge. As you practice that knowledge, then that knowledge becomes a firm conviction. Any other questions or comments?
Two things, Prabhuji.
Yes.
One thing you have explained today, like we have to detach ourselves, like that anchor example, right? That boat was, they were thinking that they are not reaching the place, and because anchor was tied to the bank, right?
Yes.
So similarly, we have to also like detach ourselves.
That anchor is our hope or conviction that by my endeavor, I can get happiness in this world. That is the anchor. As opposed to devotional service will please Krishna. And when Krishna is pleased, I will automatically be pleased. That is the rowing of the boat. Anchoring of the boat means that I have to work hard to earn money, to satisfy my senses by my endeavor. My wealth and happiness are a result of my endeavor. This firm faith that we have and work with that conviction, that means materialistic activity. That is anchor. Removing the anchor means removing the faith from our endeavor and depending on Krishna for happiness. Actually, the amount of happiness that we're going to have in this life is already fixed at the time of birth. None of our endeavor can change that. But we have got such a strong faith in our own endeavor. Deha patya kalatradishu atmashayani sasatsopi tesham pramattanidham pashyannapi na pashyati. So we are not able to see. Although we are seeing that people are all dying around us, in spite of being so strong, in spite of being such powerful position, in spite of being at the top of the social economic ladder, people are dying left, right, and center. Still, we think that actually the desirable state is to be on the top of that economic ladder, to be on top of the social ladder, to be recognized by everybody, to get this award, to do that, and that will make me happy. Although we see all around us that it's not helping, but still we have such strong faith in that we are unable to shake it. That is the anchor that has to be removed, and that anchor has to be placed in the process of, in the words of our spiritual master. So if we have the faith, the same faith, we remove from there and say, if I follow the words of my spiritual master, actually I will get the highest happiness in my life. Tushyanticha Ramanticha. There is the 4 verses of the summary of Bhagavad Gita, the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. In that there is a word, Tushyanticha Ramanticha. And if you see in the purport of that verse, Prabhupada says that in the initial stages, the devotee who is executing devotional service in the initial stages, they relish the devotional service itself. The other day we were having this wonderful program for Gaura Purnima, and there was wonderful kirtan. Did we not enjoy it? Was it not enjoyable? It was enjoyable. We saw the audio-visual program. Was it not enjoyable? It was enjoyable. Then we enjoyed delicious prasadam. Was it not enjoyable? It was enjoyable. So in the beginning stages, the devotional service itself is enjoyable. Although we may not understand who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we do not know there is no relationship that we have got with Krishna. The relationship is not strong. So we don't have any spontaneous love for Krishna. We are not doing kirtan out of love for Krishna. We have been told we should do kirtan, and we are doing kirtan. But in the process of kirtan, we are enjoying. Correct? So we are relishing. Joy is available even in devotional service. There is enjoyment available. And when that same process becomes perfected, there is a spontaneous love of God. And this is mentioned in the purport. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam tadati buddhiyogam tam yenamam apayantite. No, not that verse. Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. What is that verse? Satatam kirtayanto mam. Satatam kirtayanto mam. Matchitta gata prana, madgata prana, chitta madgata prana. Yeah, 1 minute. Let me just give me 1 second. I'll open that verse. Matchitta madgata prana. Here it is. Bodhayanta parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. And let me read this purport. Once situated in the transcendental position, okay, before that, in the preliminary stage of devotional service, they relish the transcendental pleasure from service itself. So service itself is enjoyable. You are thinking that going to office, working, first of all, we all know working in office is not enjoyable, right? But still we think there is joy in that because we think, oh, one day I'll get salary. With that salary, I can do whatever I want. And salary will go on increasing. I can do whatever I want in future. Today it's not enjoyable, but we are hoping for future. But in devotional service, today itself is enjoyable. What is that enjoyable? In preliminary stage, which is our stage, they relish the transcendental pleasure from service itself. This is stage 1. Then, in the mature stage, They are actually situated in love of God. Once situated in the transcendental position, they can relish the highest perfection, which is exhibited by the Lord in his abode. So this is not devoid of joy, but our faith has to be removed from our endeavor and placed in devotional service. Does that answer? I interrupted you actually when you were asking your question, but does it shed light on?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, I think we'll stop here. All of you please turn on your camera. Repeat after me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Krishna, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki.
Yeah.
Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki.
Yeah.
Gaur Premanande.
Hare Hare Bol.